Good morning, everyone. It is a glorious day, is it not? And it is about to become even more glorious because Bob Sima and Shannon Plummer are in the house today. And we are in for really an amazing time. Is there anyone that's here for the very first time? Can't really see out there. I don't think so. So everyone knows who I am. Awesome. I would also just love to take a moment to just recognize that I have, well, actually not just I have, but we have a couple of friends in the house today that are visiting us, and I'm very excited to have them here. Are they even in the room? Yeah. Well, anyway, the Right Reverend Darrell Jones is here. Some of you may remember he's spoken here a couple of times and may be coming back in October. And our friend Carrie Jacobson Jones and Darrell's parents, Reverend Bob and Karen Jones. So they're all in the house today, and I love that. Absolutely love that. And welcome to those of you that are tuning in to today's service through the technology of Facebook Live. Thank you very much for inviting us into your homes and into your lives this morning. We appreciate it very much.
The reading for today is from Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. He says, I consider it a dangerous misconception of mental hygiene to assume that man needs in the first place, what man needs in the first place is equilibrium, or as it is called in biology, homeostasis, i.e., a tensionless state. What man actually needs is not a tensionless state, but rather the striving and struggling for a worthwhile goal, a freely chosen task. What he needs is not the discharge of tension at any cost, but the call of a potential meaning waiting to be fulfilled by him. What man needs is not homeostasis, but what I call new dynamics, i.e., the existential dynamics in a polar field of tension, where one pole is represented by a meaning that is to be fulfilled, and the other pole by the man or woman who has to fulfill it.
Last night we had the amazing opportunity of spending time with Bob and with Shannon at the shed. Remember that secret place? And it was a totally awe-inspiring evening, filled with beautiful music and love and a cool breeze. It was divine. It was just divinely orchestrated. It was amazing. And I know that not everyone had the opportunity to be there, so I am so happy that you are here today, because you're not going to have to miss a thing. Because they're here. They're here today. They're spending some more time with us, and for that I am very, very grateful. Yes, absolutely. So for those of you that were not here last year, they were here last year, but we had a storm, and I think there was 8 of us. But we had a really nice time. Bob Sima is a dynamic singer-songwriter, performer, storyteller, speaker, servant of humanity, I love that one, workshop and retreat leader, meditation and breath work facilitator, and creative collaborator. This doesn't leave a lot of time left in the day, does it? Now on his website he says, each and every song I birth begins as my personal conversation with Source. delivered as life lessons of spiritual growth, transformation, and expansion of consciousness. I share this gift to soften the hardest of hearts, widen the narrowest of smiles, loosen the tightest of grips, lighten the heaviest of loads, and thin the thickest of walls of as many souls as I can possibly reach. All for the greater purpose of lifting as much light and consciousness into this world at this time in human evolution when it is so called to be done. He shares with us the words of Pablo Neruda, who says, "I want to do with you what spring does with the cherry trees." Just take that in for just a moment. Shannon Plummer is a powerhouse, a strategic visioning and intentional creation coach wrapped in a divine package. Shannon is an instrument, an engaged observer to the story of your life. She will guide you to and through the blind spots, allowing your higher vision self and vision to illuminate the true passion that lies within you. She will guide you to and through the blind spots. How perfect for us today with a talk title of Loving When Your World Goes Crazy. We are truly, truly, truly blessed by their presence here today. Please help me welcome Bob Sima and Shannon Plummer.
Thank you. I just want to say how grateful we are to be here. There's more than 8 people, and that's cool. But it was cool with only 8 people as well. When the words fell off of your tongue, the damage was already done. And when the war inside of you meets the war inside of me, the words are only the gun. When there's 2 pair of eyes that are blind, and broken hearts entangled in their own lies, you get dividing lines, positions and sides. In the middle, the truth silently hides. And that we're brothers and sisters in mystical whispers of some big and beautiful wind. We're divinely connected, yet somehow misdirected by these unending wars within. But we take a long, hard look inside. There's a lot less of ourselves that we'd ever hope to find. We see the blood that flows through you and the breath that's breathing me. It's all when we can see each other within. What I see in your eyes is grace, and the reflection coming back means we're of the same place. When the center of you sees the center of me, we take all the suffering away from this place. When forgiveness fell from your heart, its sweet fragrance left its permanent mark. When the peace inside of you meets the peace inside of me, the war is over before it can start. And we're brothers and we're sisters. We are mystical whispers of some big and beautiful wind. And we are divinely connected, and we are held and protected when we can see each other within.
When the center of you sees the center of me, it takes all of the suffering away from this place. How do we find the center within ourselves? And how do we meet the center of another? That song was inspired by the last vision of Crazy Horse, spoken in 1877. Which just happens to be about 7 generations ago. It was retold by Chief Joe Chasing Horse, a relative of Crazy Horse. He translated it from the words of the grandmother who was present when the words were actually spoken. While Crazy Horse sat smoking the sacred pipe with Sitting Bull for the very last time, because 4 days later he was slain. And these are the words. Upon suffering beyond suffering, the Red Nation shall rise again, and it shall be a blessing for a sick world. A world filled with broken promises, selfishness, and separations. A world longing for light again. I see a time of 7 generations when all the colors of mankind will gather under the sacred tree of life, and the whole earth will become one circle again. In that day, there will be those among the Lakota who will carry knowledge and understanding of unity among all living things. And the young white ones will come to those of my people and ask for this wisdom. I salute the light within your eyes, where the whole universe dwells. For when you are at that center within you, and I am at the place within me, we shall be one. Yeah. Notice that his vision began with the words upon suffering beyond suffering. Suffering beyond suffering. That's not a single suffering. Suffering beyond suffering. Does it ever feel like the world that we live in is in a state of suffering beyond suffering? Do you ever feel like you're smack dab in the middle of the craziest of crazies and you just can't see the light through the darkness? If you can recall a little part of the selected reading by Viktor Frankl where he stated, what man actually needs is not a tensionless state, but rather the striving and struggling for a worthwhile goal, a freely chosen task. Freely chosen task. Not something directed at you, not something that somebody expects of you, a freely chosen task. What man needs is not the discharge of tension at any cost, but the call of a potential meaning waiting to be fulfilled by him, waiting to be fulfilled by him. That doesn't indicate that humans will find their meaning or their purpose or their goals or their absolute potential in moments of ease and comfort or joy. Those are all higher vibrational states where the tension has been discharged or dissipated, at least for that moment that we allow it to be dissipated. It indicates that we will come closer to the clarity of our passion and desire and service and the full, bigger picture spectrum in the midst of conflict, confusion, frustration, and even pain. Are you able to find within your polar field of tension, as Frankl described, meaning that is to be fulfilled as the one pole, and the person who has to fulfill it as the other pole? Do you recognize that you, every single one of us in this room, you have a meaning that is to be fulfilled? Not only do you have one, but the fulfillment of that meaning heals not only yourself, but opens to the expansion and rippling effect of that healing onto others who you touch directly and indirectly. Because a ripple doesn't always stop when it hits something. When it hits something, it creates more. Do you recognize that you have a superpower within you? Power does not come through a turbine, through a transformer, into wires and connect to a receptacle in our homes. Power does not come from a dollar bill received from a paycheck within an economic system created to control the flow of exchange of support of others. Power does not come from a religious dogma presented by a religious leader that is interpreted by an agenda and exercised through some extreme activity. Power does not come from a political system that creates laws and regulations that are implemented through force. Power, my friends, comes from within. Power comes from love. If power comes from within, and power also comes from love, then love must come from within. In my opinion, we have to be able to accept what is, crazy or not, with compassion in order to fall in love with ourself. Falling in love with ourself is the highest challenge of this human existence. Because once we think we have that figured out, relationships happen. And we all know that what comes up as tension in any relationship is a mirror of what we haven't resolved within our own self. I see so many heads out there shaking. So what we haven't resolved within our own self. And we so creatively love to point fingers and place blame on the other when often it is our own stuff. Every relationship requires presence, commitment, and work to realize the potential of the dynamics that exist between friends, between family members, between lovers, between coworkers, and on and on. That realization of potential is what then allows us to recognize the strengths and the goodness and the love within ourselves. At the same time, showing us our challenges and distortions and disappointments that prevent us from acting as our true selves. When we don't act or be as our true self, isn't that when we call ourselves crazy? When you know the higher potential in someone else, yet you observe them acting or being what could be described as less than their true self, isn't that when we call someone else crazy? Relationships open up an entire box of polarities, tensions, and potential, vulnerabilities, and meaning, conflict, and resolutions. They open them to our own existence within that polar field of tension, not only with another person, but within ourselves. That is the same within that births love. And if love comes from within, then we sure need to love on ourselves in this world of suffering beyond suffering. We must love on ourselves and in our own craziest of crazies. Forget about everybody else's. We've got our own, folks. That is when, in the midst of what appears to be chaos, we can experience that moment when 7 generations gather to experience those profound words. I salute the light within your eyes, where the whole universe dwells. For when you are at that center within you, and I am at that place within me, we shall be one. In this seemingly chaotic and crazy world that we live in, how do we continue to love? How do we continue to see our full potential? How do we not lose sight of the full potential of another? How do we not lose sight of the full potential of humanity? How do we not lose sight of Crazy Horse's vision of unity? There's a quote from Marcel Proust, and in all honesty, it made me reflect for quite some time, actually, when I stumbled upon it. It goes like this: since desire always goes towards that which is our direct opposite, it forces us to love that which will make us suffer. Right. So I'm going to repeat that. Since desire always goes towards that which is our direct opposite, it forces us to love that which will make us suffer. So my takeaway from that is our desires force us to love things that we feel may cause suffering in our lives. Our desires teach us to love. So I'm going to use a little example here. If we desire world peace, and we constantly see war and terrorism and conflict in the news, we are forced to love that which appears to be unpeaceful as part of the path to peace, or we will suffer gravely because we will not be able to find the peace within our own self. The potential for perceived suffering always exists. Perceived suffering. There is a quote that I don't remember the exact quote, but it goes something like this: challenges are mandatory, but suffering is optional. When we are able to take off the lenses of suffering and find love, no matter how small of a piece of love we can find in every situation and in every person, and I'm going to repeat that, in every situation and in every person, that's when we let go of our crazy. When we can experience news, relationships, and actions, words, without being triggered, we will let go of our crazy. When we can look constantly for the little hint of goodness within everything, we will let go of our crazy. Since desire always goes towards that which is our direct opposite, that's the polarized suffering. It forces us to love that which will make us suffer. And that is the power of love that each of us have within us. That is how we let go of the crazy. That is how we never lose sight. Love brings peace. And peace leads to understanding. So I invite you to get into a little relaxed position. Open up to some space of contemplation. Receive a deep breath. If you're comfortable, close your eyes. Stay with that breath. And focus on the following words. See how and where they resonate in your polar field of tension and in your desires. Compassion, grace, forgiveness, truth, empathy, peace, in your mind's eye, I invite you to create yourself a pair of glasses with lenses that are infused with love. Put them on and sink into Bob's song.
If you knew me better, if you knew where I've been, if you've seen half of what these eyes have seen, if you heard the voice I hear keeping me up at night, maybe you'd understand, maybe you'd recognize that the face you see, it's the best I've got. Sometimes it takes all of me to give a little piece of my heart. This isn't an apology or reason why, but if you knew me better, you see I'm alive. like you on the inside. If you could taste the tears, feel the burn of the lies that have crossed my lips, touch all the close calls that have slipped right through my fingertips. If you could have rode along with me on my boulevard of dreams, you'd have seen him pass before my eyes and die right in front of me. And the face you see, it's the best I've got. Sometimes it takes all of me to give a little piece of my heart. This isn't an apology or reason why, but if you knew me better, you see I'm a lot like you on the inside. On the inside. Maybe you wouldn't write me off or turn your cheek. You wouldn't question my motives or judge my beliefs. You wouldn't drop your bombs on me or try to make me disappear. And if you knew me better, how much better off all of us would be. If you knew me better, well, we wouldn't need borders, and we wouldn't need wars, and we wouldn't need bombs, and we wouldn't need guns no more. Well, we wouldn't need borders, and we wouldn't need wars, and we wouldn't need bombs, and we wouldn't need guns no more.
So as you sit with your love-infused glasses, let's create that polarized field of tension. Simply by placing a chair in front of you and inviting someone to sit in it who you might have a bit of discord or disagreement or conflict with. Remember, you are viewing this lovely divine being through love-filled lenses. You can't do anything but absolutely love this person sitting in front of you. As you stare into their eyes, you recognize the peace within you meeting the peace within them. And I invite you to ask them a question. With, through, and as love, ask them a question that's sitting in your heart. And when you receive their answer, allow that answer to be a moment where you know them better. Not only do you know them better, you love them better because you just received a nugget, a piece of their heart, and you received it through the lenses of love. Compassion, grace, forgiveness, truth, empathy, peace. You know, in this moment, just with this mindful exchange, that you have the ability within yourself to love this person with all you have, regardless of the crazy, regardless of their crazy, and regardless of your own crazy. You have the ability. Love and compassion are necessities, not luxuries. Love and compassion are necessities, not luxuries. Take a good, loving stare into the eyes of this beautiful being sitting in front of you. Take off your glasses filled with love and invite them to put them on. And in this moment, can you accept and can you welcome them to see you through those same love-infused glasses that you just witnessed them with? I salute the light within your eyes, where the whole universe dwells. For when you are at that center within you and I at that place within me, we shall be one. If you knew them better, how much better off would we all be? If they knew you better, how much better off would we all be? invite you to share in your mind's eye a huge hug with this person if you can possibly bring yourself to do that. The abilities within our mind's eye don't have to be any different than the abilities that we can express in human form. I invite you to share a bow of reverence with your beloved and start to get in touch with your breath. Feel the chair under you, the floor under your feet. The groundedness of being in this room, and when you're ready, I invite you to open your eyes. When we have a clear vision, using love as our objective lens, we foster compassion and grace and forgiveness and love and understanding first within ourselves. And then we can share that with others. We begin to see different perspectives simply as different perspectives, instead of as threats or conflicts or judgment. We begin to connect to the center of ourselves, and we begin to feel the center of others. The deeper understanding of a human condition comes when we realize that all behaviors are conditioned. We choose to be certain ways because of something, a condition that may or may not be true, but appears to be real. We behave, and we choose our behaviors based on a thought, a belief, a story, a fear, a hope, a desire, sometimes a directive, an experience, a joy, a feeling, and even a memory. Imagine ourselves if we only responded with and through love. Imagine how you would see yourself if you accepted all of you, through your own lenses of love. Imagine how you would care for your beloved if you only responded to them as love. Imagine how you would see the world if you agreed to find a thread of love in everything you experienced. That is a world that I believe Martin Luther King Jr. spoke of when he said these words: I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted and every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. How did Martin Luther King Jr. view the world through all of the crazy, the racial injustices placed on the African American community? Do you think that his goal to unite the highest potential of humanity made the difference between encouraging nonviolent demonstrations instead of violent protests? Do you think he looked outside of himself for some external power source to stand as and for love in the face of threats, physical harm, and discrimination? Or do you think he knew that his own power source was within himself? How did Viktor Frankl view the world through all of the crazy? The anti-Semitic atrocities that were happening to the Jewish communities throughout Europe during the World War II. Was his desire to fulfill his meaning more powerful than the possibility that he could just give up his life to avoid the fateful suffering of the Holocaust? Do you think he might have been challenged by choosing to find and connect to the center of his perpetrators rather than succumb to anger and bitterness and resentment? How did Crazy Horse view the world through all of the crazy? The unlawful betrayals presented to Native American communities as the U.S. was infiltrated and overruled by non-natives. Was his desire of a unified world a vision so strong within him that 7 generations from his time was such a relatively short time scale that his own inability to experience that unity was far less important than simply holding steady in that vision? Do you think he looked at the world through lenses of fear or through lenses of love? The only possible way to manage a crazy world is by finding peace within ourselves and allowing that foundation of peace to create the love with which you not only see the world, but also hold for the world. It takes a compassionately strong and centered individual to light the way for future generations. Patricia Cota-Robles writes in Who Am I? Why Am I Here? It is time for all of us to really grasp the fact that people do not know what they do not know. When a person awakens, his or her, man, I can't speak that. There, right, thank you. Their consciousness is raised up and their perception of reality is transformed. An awakened person literally thinks, feels, sees, and hears with greater awareness. This shift of consciousness allows the person to perceive a greater truth and to comprehend the oneness of life at a deeper level. This awakening results in an indisputable inner knowing within the person's heart and mind. When an unawakened person tries to deny or discredit the inner knowing of an awakened person, it is futile. That effort is like a deaf and blind person trying to convince a sighted hearing person that there is no such thing as color or music. The difference in this situation is that the sighted hearing person would understand perfectly why the deaf and blind person was having trouble grasping the concept of color and music. The sighted hearing person would have compassion for the deaf and blind person and would respond to him or her with patience and understanding. Martin Luther King Jr., Viktor Frankl, Crazy Horse. The level of patience and understanding for what was happening allowed them to accept what was happening. Their ability to see through love-infused and peace-filled glasses, a 360-degree panoramic of a greater expression of humanity, allowed them also to disagree with what was happening, yet articulate and model their concern effectively. Their actions impacted their history. and it will continue to impact history for lifetimes to come. It is time for us all to see with new eyes and hear with new ears. It is time for us to find our center and meet the center of others. It is time for us to salute the light within each other and live as one. It is time for us to recognize our meaning and our role in fulfilling that meaning. It is time for us to desire so strongly that we learn to love even stronger. It is time for us to know ourselves so that we can more deeply understand others. It is time for us to love our crazy so much that we shine like the light of the world. It is time for us to be bold, brave, and unafraid.
It's time, it's time, it's time. It's another day under the same sun. It's another day to lean in and claim some. It's another day to be bold, brave, and unafraid. It's another chance to change direction, move the arrow, a course correction. Be an instrument, be the change and move out of the way. So if your glass is half empty, then fill it. If it's overflowing and spill it over the mouths that thirst and the souls that hurt. Spill it, spill it, spill it, 'cause we need your heart. We need it open wide. We need you brilliantly beaming, glowingly knowing goodness from inside. We need your beautiful smile, and we need it right now. 'Cause you're the light of the world, the light of the world. And it's time you figured it out. It's time, it's time. It's time. It's time, it's time, it's time. Can we get you up on your feet? It's time. It's time. It's time, it's time, it's time. Yeah, you're the answer, it's perfect timing. And there ain't no use in hiding this blinding, shiny diamond you've been disguising. You're the universe in a static motion. You're the elixir, the magic potion for the world that cries for what's behind your eyes. It's time. It's time. It's time. It's time. It's time. Sing it with us. It's time. 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 Thank y'all.
Thank you very much, Shannon and Bob, for that beautiful reminder that love is the healing force, and that it really is time for us to bring that to the world. I thought about this morning as I was listening that, you know, on Monday we had the opportunity to put on a pair of glasses and to witness a miracle, the total eclipse of the sun. And that we're being reminded today that we can put on a pair of glasses, a glasses with lens filled with love, and once again experience a miracle of a world that works for everyone. Sounds wonderful to me. Thank you very much.